the 19th. I have a few changes to the agenda, actually quite a few changes to the agenda. Probably the most important addition to the agenda will be at 3A, where I'll ask the board to adopt a proclamation naming J.J. Piggy's honorary mayor for the day for November 29th. And so we'll add that at 3A. At 6C11, request approval to promote 4 employees from part-time to full-time in environmental services. 6C12, request approval to hire a driver in environmental services. 6E10, travel for Cowan Hunter to attend the MFC Community Tree Advisory Board meeting in Cleveland, Mississippi. At 21, there'll be a change order number 2 from DCS for extra sodding. 23A, consider a request from Odin Hardy Construction for overnight work for a concrete pour at 14 Thacker Loop. 23B, request permission to close Varner Loop from North Lamar to Rogers Road until the planned drainage improvement project is completed. And then we will remove 6C1. Think that is it.
Yes, ma'am, I think that was all I had.
Okay. All right, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda with those changes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So a quick mayor's report before we get to 3A. So, you know, we track the economic impact of games, we track the number of visitors that come to games, but we really, the measuring stick that we use to compare month over month and year over year is what are our sales tax revenues, what are our food and beverage tax revenues, what are our hotel motel tax revenues. And so we set a record for, as I always say, when we get these numbers, they are reflecting 2 months prior. So these are September's numbers. And we set a record in sales tax. It came in at $1,385,495, and that's up 1.87 from the month before, but it's up 7.9% from the same month last year. And last year in September, we had 3 home games. This year in September, we had 3 home games, but the economic impact was up 7.9% as regards sales tax. 2% also set a new record, came in at $547,565. That's up 17% from last month and 18% from last year. Hotel motel came in at $103,000, and it was up 1% from last month, but it was down 2.92 from last year, which is hard for me to understand, but nevertheless, sometimes, you know, one person gets their payment in late or something like that, and I suspect that it's something along those lines. Holly Jolly Holidays begins November the 23rd. I saw Kenny, the ice skating rink today is in place, and the lights are up, the banners are hung, and getting ready for action beginning November the 23rd. The Christmas parade will be Monday, December the 2nd, and Marley reports that we have more floats than ever and great participation. And also, Mike Mitchell, who chairs the Oxford Film Festival, came by today, and they're gearing up, and you can go to ox-film.com to see what's going on with the film festival as they are getting that underway. So, with no further ado, most everybody in here knows this fella, and you may remember that in 2019, JJ led the Oxford Chargers to the 6A state football championship. He has made us proud on the football field and off of the field. In a recent interview that I was reading, JJ said, "I put my head down each day and try to play for the player beside me." And that's exactly who he is. I've known him since he was a young boy, and that is exactly the man that he has grown into. So it thrills me every time I'm watching Ole Miss sports on TV and they refer to the mayor of Oxford. Of course, they're referring to this guy. They're not referring to the mayor of Oxford. He is the mayor of Oxford, as every ESPN announcer has deemed him. And there are several traits that JJ has that are going to come in real handy when he serves as mayor here in a few weeks. He plays defense and offense. It's going to really come in handy. So you got to play both sides of the ball in this game. He understands what it means to serve. He posted on Twitter last week, he said, "Every act of service, big or small, builds a stronger community." and it does. And these jobs are public service, and that's something that JJ's committed to. And probably the most handy trait that he has is he's a magician. He is. No joke. No, he is. He does magic tricks. And in this job, I might need him to teach me a few, because some magic tricks would definitely come in handy. So that's JJ's hobby for anyone that just wants, tidbits of information. So I'm going to read this proclamation for the board to consider. This is a proclamation naming hometown hero J.J. Piggies honorary mayor for the day of November 29th, 2024. Whereas Oxford's own J.J. Piggies has made a name for himself both on and off the field. Whereas J.J. has earned many significant honors, including the 2024 Chucky Mullins Courage Award and the 23 and 24 Werfel Trophy Watch List, which is presented annually to the FBS player who best combines exemplary community service with leadership achievement on and off the field. He was a 2023 and 2024 All-State AFCA Good Works Team nominee, which is an award recognizing college football athletes for their unwavering commitment to community service and their good works off the field. Whereas J.J. Piggies has found numerous ways to help his hometown, including holding his own community-wide school supply giveaway last fall, which helped distribute school supplies for elementary students. Ole Miss's ongoing Reading with the Rebels program, which features student athletes visiting local elementary schools to read to students to increase support for reading and literacy throughout the state of Mississippi. The local Boys and Girls Club after-school programs, the local court-appointed special advocates CASA back-to-school event that helps prepare foster students for the start of the school year, and CASA's Adopt a Child program, which assists children during the holiday season, only to name a few. Whereas J.J. Piggies has been described in the media as a one-man welcome party, especially when it comes to new player acclamation, becoming affectionately known to his teammates as the mayor. Whereas Ole Miss knows when it wants something done, you put J.J. Piggies on the front line. Now therefore, I, Robin Tannehill, mayor of the city of Oxford, Mississippi, do hereby proclaim that J.J. Piggies will serve as honorary mayor on November 29th, 2024, effectively making him the mayor on and off the field while leading the Rebels to an Egg Bowl win. Do I have a motion to adopt that proclamation?
I so move.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Get ready, Mississippi State Bulldogs. It's a shame your hometown's not proud of you. And you know what the best gift you're giving tonight is? You don't have to stay. You're welcome, baby. We'll see you. Hey, before we get to Mississippi State, now let's switch some games. Let's don't get the cart ahead of us. Well, that was fun. I love something fun in these meetings. So rarely happens. I will ask the board to authorize the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on November the 5th and the recess meeting on November the 6th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Ask you to consider the consent agenda with a couple of additions there and one removal.
Motion to consider the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Kenny is requesting permission to approve a parade assembly permit for End of All Music to host the Stax Mobile Soul Museum on December the 14th, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Approval would include use of one parking space.
They actually told me today they need two, and it would
Okay.
be spots 106 and 107, so that is an edit.
Okay.
And those are, and
So, yes, they have spoken
they've
with, it's in
spoken
front
with-
of Jane.
It's in front of Jane, and so it's
And-
End of All Music and Jane, and so she agreed to.
She has agreed, so. Great, okay, so Mark, you motioned?
Second.
Okay, and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Request permission to accept maintenance upgrades to the transfer station building owned by Three Rivers Solid Waste Authority on city property and to join with Three Rivers as co-recipients of their EDA grant. Yes, ma'am.
Move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Amberlyn. Request permission to approve an updated lease agreement with Advantage Business Systems for a new postage meter for the Oxford Municipal Court.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Presentation of the third and fourth quarter reports from the Oxford Park Commission. Seth? That was easy, Nikki. Well done.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
I'll start out by saying all those amazing accolades you read about JJ was great, but one of the things you did leave out is for the past 3 summers, he's been a day camp counselor within the day camp program. He's just as much as a kid as the rest of the groups that come in there. And what an honor for us to be able to work with him. Those kids love on him, jump on him
Oh,
all
I
the
know
time.
they do.
So it's great having him there. So
That's awesome.
we'll go over a few things here. What we've got here is, it slipped my mind last time to get this on y'all's agenda, so we got 2 quarterly reports, but we'll certainly go through anything y'all want to talk about. So the first thing I've got kind of listed to talk about is the Mississippi High School State Tennis Championship. It's something that we just couldn't do in Oxford. It wasn't for Kenny and Visit Oxford and stuff that they offer help in getting us here. But there's over 600 kids that come into Oxford and play that weekend in that tournament. And then kind of go to the next, facility rentals during the April through June. We rented facilities 111 times through there. League of Champions, which is our special needs program in basketball, we had 28 participants this year. It's the largest we've had in that program since before 2020. This year, we were proud to also start new programs. You know, this past spring, we offered a spring youth flag football league. And typically when we have our secondary leagues, they're about a 50% play from what we get from the primary leagues. And that's what we saw in flag football. We had 200 participants in it. In typical fall registration, there's about 400. Spring youth volleyball, which is completely different. We got 100% participation in the spring is what we do in the fall. Summer basketball went up to 155 kids this year, and then, of course, had about 20 girls being cheerleaders at those spring flag football and summer games. 105 participants in this quarter played, wrestled, was an independent contractor program with wrestling. You know, it's a bunch of kids getting into a program that just really wouldn't be possible without the schools jumping in on it and getting so many folks in. Superhero training, I had 150 kids that past quarter that come in and they did all their certifications, and so now we've got 150 extra superheroes roaming the streets of Oxford through that. So we were proud to do those in that quarter. And then the summer months, Water Day that we had at Stone, you know, we were proud to have as many kids up there that did that. We did our Pirates Day. We had about around 150 pirates come in. Back to school carnival that was able to have some kids there. And we attempted to do a after school program this year. It just for some reason it did not work. It didn't pan out. We went back and done some surveying, and you know, ultimately what we found out is kids that walk across the street that get to come to Activity Center for free and play, they just weren't necessarily interested in paying for our program when they could come into our gates and play. This past summer, you know, without us having a swimming pool in Oxford, and we certainly get, you know, calls by lots of people, what were we able to do? We did have a partnership with the swim club down on Bramlett. So the participation in June, we had 231 people show up with a partnership down at the swim club, and then in July we had 149 folks that we tracked. So that was people that our senior population that did not have to go without their aquatic exercises this summer because of that partnership. This fall, we changed our sports programming. We'll get a survey back in to see how that went, but we played all of our fall sports concurrently. We were able to shave off about 3 weeks worth of play by doing that. Instead of having 6 or 7 weeks of soccer and then 6 or 7 weeks of flag football, we combined them. We played 11 weeks, which ultimately doesn't seem like a whole big deal, other than we didn't have to play games the first 3 weeks of August when it's 106 degrees every day. So that made a big deal for us, and we couldn't have done it without M-Trade being on board with us with those things too. Newsletters, we're sending out about 10,000 newsletters each week to folks in Oxford to get the word out about all the programs and stuff that we're doing. So that's just a quick overview. If you've got something in the quarterly reports that you would like to talk about, I'll certainly go to them individually.
No, y'all are just doing amazing work. We emailed the board the day that Braxton and Hollis and I went, when Seth and his team had where they set their calendar for the year and talk about the different programs that they're going to do and that kind of thing. And I mean, I was blown away by the amount of programming that's going on through our park commission. You know, I mean, I was shocked at all the things I didn't know that are going on, because y'all are, it's nonstop, y'all, and the number of people in our community that they are serving, young and old, is amazing. So please tell your staff how much we appreciate them. And I know that all these things that we just zip through the list of and say whatever, not one of those things happened without enormous amounts of time and energy and heart invested in the community. So thank you.
Absolutely.
For all of that.
Look forward to it.
All right, anybody have any questions for Seth? All right, great, thank you. Rob, request permission to accept the FY 2024 Oxford Utilities Electric Division Audit Report and TVA Annual Report.
Yes, I'd like to welcome up Matt Wood with Alexander Thompson Arnold. He's going to go over the audit report. And after that, if you have any questions for Matt or I, happy to answer them, and then we will go from there.
Great. Hey, Matt, thanks for being here.
Good to see everybody. Quickest version of this, it is an unmodified opinion, which means clean audit opinion, which just stands to say that we believe the financial statements are free of any material misstatement or any evidence of fraud. We had no internal control issues to note this year. We can also come to the council with a management letter that just states at a lower level, these are things we'd recommend. We have none of those. We also perform several tests related to state of Mississippi laws and regulations that are required of any governmental entity that is audited in the state. All that came back good as well. There's not much in the numbers way. I will say Rob, Chastity, the entire team over there, TVA put a little more strict deadline on their electric utilities this year. It's always kind of been try and get it done by 10/31, which they've always done anyway, but they were issued October the 1st this year, so their entire team worked with us greatly to get that done. I just wanted to point out just a few numbers. We're not financial advisors by any means, so it is just an audit, but just to show you some of the changes from last year. When you compare the 2 years, the most significant change is just the pension plan, which state of Mississippi is on a cost-sharing plan, so it's not a decision City of Oxford or Oxford Utilities made this year. But the net pension liability increased $630,000, which, you know, I heard it said a moment ago about sales taxes. This is a year look back, and it's really how the stock market did a year and a half ago at this point, more than it has to do with anything now. So hopefully if the stock market continues to trend up, those numbers continue to decrease going forward. That had about a $786,000 pseudo impact on the income statement. There's always an impact, so it's not 786 compared to zero, but 200, 300,000 is sort of in the normal range of what you can expect to see, what's called pension expense. So just take that into account when you look at all this stuff, that in a normal standard year where the stock market related to y'all's pension plan meets expectations, about 300,000 is the impact of the pension plan on an income statement. So $586,000, depending on how you look at it there. So just a few items. Net income was $505,000, due to an operating profit of $1.44 million. Operating revenues were $25.75 million. While that is a decrease, operating expenses decreased right along with it, so the net income impact was minimal there. The only other item I'd note is on page 14. You don't have to turn there, I can read it to you. But we had $3 million of construction of plant this year as we're continuing to have new activity, new ongoing projects in the community. That's a good number to continue to invest. And while cash decreased $879,000, just to let you know what TVA cares about, TVA requires about 2 power bills to be in a cash position, just so that we're not chasing our power bill payment to them with current year operations. Y'all, the cash position's 4.5 or 5 times that. So in a very good cash position there. To note, there's nothing else really significant, a really consistent year outside the pension plan. So we're hoping for some normal pension, normal stock market to come into play in some of these plans, so that we can see really where operations are year to year on a clearer scale. Happy to answer any questions anybody has.
May I have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in
So we
addition to the
need-
audit, this is also an item that covers the TVA annual report,
Okay.
which I included in your packet too, if there's
Yeah.
any questions.
So I need a motion with permission to accept the
So moved.
audit report and annual report. Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Request permission to approve and authorize the mayor to sign an updated mutual aid agreement with the Lafayette County Fire Department. Chief?
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly what it is. We have a new supervisor, board of presidents, so we need to get an updated mutual aid agreement with them.
Motion made.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Request approval of a preliminary and final plat for case 3132 and 3151 Oxford Commons Lots LLC, David Blackburn, for the Summit Phase 2 for property located at Ed Perry Boulevard, being further identified as PPINs 40349, 40350, 40351, and 40352.
All right, subject property is about 40 acres in the Commons, partially inside the PUD boundary. Applicant is proposing the 8-lot subdivision, 2 lots of multifamily towards the east, 1 middle lot, about 5 acres for office space, and smaller frontage lots for general retail on Ed Perry. Each of those lots meets the dimensional standards of the underlying zoning. Areas that are inside of the PUD are going to have additional standards related to the PUD. Additionally, this proposed plat is going to affect areas that were previously approved by the board for final plats but never got recorded at Chancery, and those include Summit Phase 1, Lot 1, and Summit Phase 2, Lot 1, Waffle House, and then the ball fields that never got done. So this final plat approval will effectively serve as a plat amendment for these 2 final plats, and the 2 final plats will effectively be abandoned if y'all decide to approve. I've got the standard language in here about the subdivision law, and the applicant has provided a letter of approval from the one identified affected party. Engineering provided comments in the attached staff reports regarding a few technical modifications to the plat, and case 3132 was approved in September with 4 conditions in the staff report, and 3151 was passed in November with 5 conditions in that staff report. And so staff and the planning commission recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat for the Summit Phase 2 with the 6 conditions that are listed in your memo.
Motion made to approve with conditions.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Request approval of a final plat amendment for case 3140 Oxford Commons for Summit Phase 1, lots 2 through 6 for property located at Ed Perry, being further identified as you see the following PPINs.
Again, subject property is located on the other end of Ed Perry. It's got the Tractor Supply as one of the lots in there. And so this kind of goes in conjunction with previous plat. This is a very minor amendment that will clarify that an access easement to the south side of Lot 6 will in fact be public right-of-way, and Lot 6 will increase in size by about 0.04 acres. Again, standard language about subdivision law for Mississippi, and the applicant has provided letters of approval from 2 of the affected parties and an affidavit stating that the other affected party has no objection. And that case was approved on the consent agenda in November, and staff and the Planning Commission recommend approval of the requested final plat amendment for the Summit Phase 1, lots 2 through 6, with the 2 conditions that are in your memo.
Motion made with conditions.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Robert. Request approval of a preliminary and final plat for case 3156 Lonesome Oaks, Will Matthews, for Village Station for property located at 3004 Old Taylor Road, being further identified as PPIN 7730.
So the subject property is located on Old Taylor Road just before the intersection of Old Taylor and Virginia Crestman Drive. The property fronts Old Taylor Road with Faulkner Flats at the rear of the property. The applicant is proposing a 3-lot subdivision. According to the applicant, there is existing regional stormwater detention at Faulkner Flats that's already been approved to serve the proposed commercial development on this site. Lots 1 and 3 feature existing buildings and businesses, and Lot 2 will be the site of 2 multifamily buildings. This case was approved with the consent agenda at the November 2024 meeting of the Planning Commission, and staff is recommending approval of the requested preliminary and final plat for Village Station with 8 conditions. They're listed in your report.
Will be approved with conditions. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Kate. Request approval of a preliminary and final plat for case 3160 Rise Oxford Sarah Nichols for Oxford Farms Phase 12 for property located at 1913 Oxford Way, being further identified as PPIN 19332.
Good evening. This is a preliminary and final plat approval for Oxford Farms Phase 12. The property is located on Oxford Way near the roundabout just west of the Archive, and the property is actually on the south side of the roundabout. This is a request for a 1-lot subdivision for about 5.20 acres. Engineering provided comments in the staff report related to access, water and sewer, and stormwater management. The Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve this plat with the 3 conditions indicated in your staff report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. First reading of proposed ordinance amending the official city zoning map for case 3161 Oxford Farms to rezone 52.7 acres from suburban residential to suburban multifamily for property located on Oxford Way, being further identified as PPIN 7984.
Yes, ma'am. So as you mentioned, this is a request to modify the zoning map for just under 53 acres from suburban residential to suburban multifamily in the Oxford Farms development. The subject property is located on the south side of Oxford Way. It's directly across from the Archive development that y'all probably familiar with. Again, the property is currently zoned suburban residential. The property is adjacent to the development that's being proposed called Rise. The property is primarily vacant. There is one existing structure on there, but the remainder of the property is not developed. The applicant provided comments, to which they believe is the change in the character of the neighborhood and the public need. So their application speaks to the shift in the neighborhood character as Oxford Farms is developed and the area around has continued to develop in the expansion of the city limits. They also cite the completion of Oxford Way, the construction of Oxford Way. They indicate the growth of the University of Mississippi and increased enrollment and housing demand as justification for the need. They also indicate that this is an ideal location due to the proximity to campus, and then the economic impacts that this development or a property of this. The ability to have a development of this, type at this location would bring to the area, in addition to the social benefits that it could bring. The applicant, I think it's also worth noting, in addition to Oxford Way, we have been working with the developer on creating a connection between Oxford Way and Belk Boulevard. Something that we believe that will be, very beneficial to the area. The property is surrounded by multifamily and nearby multifamily development. And as the community has seen in recent years, the university growth and expansion and the success of Oxford is putting a lot of pressure on housing, and certainly that they believe that the density and the increased density here would be an ideal area for it. Staff recommended approval, or staff actually believes that there's sufficient evidence for the change and need to support the rezoning, and the Planning Commission recommended approval with a 6-to-1 vote of this zoning modification.
So this is just a first reading. Does anybody have any questions?
Ben, the change primarily is the amount of student housing, or, excuse me, multifamily built. That's primarily what it is, correct?
According to their application.
Well, according to their application, according to your review of the area,
I mean, I think that there is an awful lot of development that has occurred at this site since this property was considered for this zoning, including a lot of multifamily nearby.
thank you.
Any other questions?
So when they, like in Grand Oaks, we've seen them move the opposite direction. We've seen them change it hasn't been a rezoning, but where they had multifamily, they're taking it to single family, so the density is actually dropping. Is there anything in here that as the density goes up, that they have to drop the density somewhere else within the development?
They're asking for outright, the outright density at this location to be allowed consistent with the suburban multifamily density. They are not requesting any other changes to density throughout the development. And I think the difference there is Grand Oaks is a PUD. It's a planned unit development where this is not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then we will have our second reading and public hearing on this ordinance change at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Discuss safety-sensitive employee definition as it relates to the city drug screening policy. Braxton?
All right, last week I distributed to each of you a list of all city employees and whether if they were safety sensitive or not. And the way we determined this is we looked at their position endangered the lives of themselves or others. And we had to do it this way because some of our positions or their titles, they do different duties. An example of that would be in buildings and grounds, where one employee may only work watering flowers and the other may work on heavy equipment. So we went through every city employee and talked to the department heads and determined who was safety sensitive or not.
So do you want, basically the measuring stick that was used was, do they operate machinery?
Basically, the shortest version, if they endanger the lives of themselves or others. For example, if you're working on electricity, that would be considered safety sensitive. If you operate heavy machinery, you'd be safety sensitive. If you handle stressful calls in the communications department or dispatcher, we consider that safety position sensitive. So by far, most of our positions are safety sensitive, and very few that are not.
So do you need a motion on this, Braxton, or just?
Yes, we did a motion on this.
Will be approved.
I don't see the actual definition in here.
I didn't put a definition on there. We looked at each one individually.
Yeah, he met with every department head and went through each.
It's per employee. And the inclusion of all these people would be deemed safety sensitive?
Mm-hmm.
Does this, this is a, outside of police and fire in Braxton, does it, under our old definition, is it expanded people? I mean, the new.
Very little. It expands it very little, if any.
So we actually were looking to contract safety sensitive, and we got more people involved?
No, it's
Or is it, let me ask you this, I'm sorry, or is it because we got more employees?
yes, we have a lot more.
Yes, okay. Okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, authorize the city clerk to initiate the annual disbursement from the Glen Mead Municipal Trust Fund. Woohoo!
Yes, this is actually our largest disbursement to date. since the inception of the fund in 2012. We will be getting $1,066,895.
Move we approve. That was quick.
Yes, I agree. Second. All right, all in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Request permission to reject the bid received for the downtown camera system and authorize the advertisement of a rebid.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Request permission to reject the bid received for the Oxford Police Vehicle Equipment and Upfitting and authorize the advertisement of a rebid.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We added at 21A, a change order number 2 from DCS for extra sodding, Mark?
Yeah, so we're nearing completion of the police station. There's a little over 3 weeks before we're gonna move daily operations to 9 Industrial Park. We're doing the landscaping right now, and as we're doing the landscaping, the contract's requesting add about 6,100 square feet of sod. And initially, the plan was to just sod out front, but when we built the fence, we realized that there'll be less maintenance if we go ahead and do it right inside the fence instead of the Johnson grass that's gonna get that tall. So it's a $5,356 change order to add 6,100 square
Motion
feet.
made.
Sorry, thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right. 22, request permission to advertise for bids for the purchase and installation of emergency generators at the Industrial Park Well and Industrial Park Water Treatment Plant elevated tank sites. John?
Yeah, y'all approved this grant to receive the funds from this grant from FEMA last meeting. This is just us requesting to advertise for bids for those generators. There's 2 of them, be well over $75,000.
Motion made. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? We added at 23A to consider a request from Odin Hardy Construction for an overnight work hours for a concrete pour at 14 Thacker Loop.
Yeah, this is the same storage facility that has asked a couple of times previous to do overnight pours, so they can get their concrete trucks in and out before school traffic.
And we hadn't had any complaints of their previous
None that I've
pours, so.
received.
Okay, you good.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? At 23B, we added request permission to close Varner Loop from North Lamar to Rogers Road until the planned drainage improvement project is completed.
Yeah, so we've got a project right now that's advertised to bid to go in and replace all that drainage in there that goes under the Beacon parking lot under North Lamar to get the water out of there. We're in the time of year where it's gonna rain every other day and water is just not receding. And when it does recede, there's gonna be 6 inches of mud that we gotta clean up. So we feel like it's in the best interest, safety-wise, just to keep it closed until we can get that fixed.
Motion made. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, John. That was our last edition, wasn't it?
You got 23.
The original 23.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Request permission to close portions of Hurricane Lane as necessary for the construction of the North Lamar Sewer Improvement Project.
Yeah, so we're gonna start in a couple of weeks, placing new sewer up North Lamar, north of Three-Way and down Hurricane Lane. The sewer is going in the road on Hurricane Lane, and so what we propose to do is work from manhole to manhole, distances of about 400 feet. And so we'll need to close off those sections of road while they open trench that, lay the pipe and cover it up. We'll maintain access to driveways as needed, but in order for them to get in and out, we'll need to have moving closures on that road.
Motion made. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Consider a proposed contract with the Lafayette County Board of Supervisors for the housing of city arrestees.
At a work session meeting about a week ago, an open meeting, we discussed the discussions that some aldermen had with some supervisors, less than a quorum of both. And there was a proposal made that the city consider a contract that would, and you all have it, it's in the packet, it would be a $55 a day for the first 20 days, and then $32.71, I believe, whatever the state rate is, for the remaining time through whichever comes first, either the preliminary hearing, waiver of preliminary hearing, or grand jury indictment. Medical care would continue to be taken care of through the jail, although paid for those city detainees during the period they remain detainees up until those keys I just met by the city for those actual medical costs. We request specific information about the medical care that's given and the specifics of which detainees are being detained at the time. I think I sort of faithfully got all that into that. I've circulated it, but if there are comments, particularly Brian and Jason, since y'all have met with those guys, that y'all think it misses any of that, let me know and we'll make another hack at it.
I think it fairly and accurately reflects the terms discussed during the meeting.
Okay. Where it'll go from here is it would be sent to the county board for their review and comment.
What expiration, I think the question we may still have.
I think it's July, or June 30th is what it says.
Yeah.
June 30th.
Yeah, it says
Correct.
Yes, I think the one
What
it
does it
says,
say?
I think it says 2024 now.
Oh, that's just
Yeah,
a typo on
we'll
my
update
part.
it.
Yeah, so we'll just change with that date change.
Thank you, yeah.
We will, if we have a motion to,
Second.
all right, all in favor? Any opposed? Then we will forward this to Brent Larson, the Board of Supervisors. Thank you. I would ask the board to consider an executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? The board will now consider an executive session.